Why is it that zombie survival games are never what we want? Why are they either not what they're supposed to be, or they just fail to deliver? It's interesting how there's an endless sea of zombie games, but only a few that are any good. How many good open world or truly good multiplayer zombie games are out there? And to take it a step further, how many of those are both open world and multiplayer? Dead Frontier 2 is a free-to-play sequel to a long-running classic browser game that aims to fill that void in the genre. But how does it hold up? Let's dive into the features and the mechanics of the game and decide if it's worth playing today in 2024. After you get past the initial loading screen, you get to create your character. And creating your character is really basic here. You get to choose your gender, your skin color, and pick from a few different face, hair, and beard options. So there's nothing too groundbreaking here, just a standard character creator. Once you enter the game for the first time, you choose which server you want to play on, which are separated into 3 regions from around the world. Or you could play in a private lobby with friends, or even yet you can play by yourself in a single player session. The rest of this video, however, is going to be focused on the MMO North American server. Every time you load in or enter a new building, you get this typewriter effect on your screen with the name of the building that you're entering. This really reminds me a lot of something out of Resident Evil. In fact, a lot of the game's atmosphere reminds me of Resident Evil now that I think about it, and that's not to be negative, that's just something that's occurred to me. Once you're all loaded in, you'll be inside the Dalbo police station, which is a safe zone for the early game, meaning no harm can befall you while you're inside this building, which is an outpost. There's going to be a bunch of people either standing around or running around. People with green names are the NPCs, and people with blue names are other players. Let's go over here and talk to Chief Banks, the outpost leader. Chief Banks tells us that he can't help us with anything until we prove that we're ready. And to do that, he wants us to go outside and kill a few infected in the streets, and in return, we'll get a small amount of cash and experience. We start with a 2x4 melee weapon and a small damaged quality handgun. Once you get outside, you'll see a dark and eerie street. You'll see some infected scattered about, and you'll see a vehicle labeled as your car. Chief Banks didn't make it clear to us how many infected he wants us to kill, but if we hit tab and look in our mission log, we'll see that he needs us to kill 5 infected. Killing the 5 infected is a really easy task. A few well-placed headshots should easily take care of them to complete the mission. Once we do, we can head back inside and talk to Chief Banks again. He'll thank us for our service and give us the cash and experience he promised. And what's going to happen next is he's going to give us another mission to go out and loot a few items from anywhere really, and then come back and talk to him. Basically, Chief Banks is teaching us the basics of the game. He's essentially setting us up with a tutorial without telling us he's doing it. By the time we're done doing a handful of these tutorial missions for the chief, we'll know how to kill infected, loot items, buy, sell, and scrap items at the marketplace, and equip different weapons on our character. The final 2 beginning missions he has for us are to go and kill a boss behind a door marked with the 3 red question marks, and then to complete 3 daily tasks from people around the police station. He doesn't tell us where this boss is, but these bosses are randomly found in buildings, so if we just go out and look around, we'll find them eventually. The other 3 daily tasks can be picked up by talking to NPCs with the yellow exclamation marks floating above their names, and I can't help but feel like I've seen this system somewhere before. Anyways, tasks can be anything from fetch quests to kill quests or to locate someone either alive or dead. The variety of missions isn't that expansive here, but really they're just excuses to go out and kill zombies and loot stuff along the way. The story and lore behind everything is seen through notes and cassette tapes you find and listen to throughout the game as you're traveling. That's how the game starts, and that's how you learn the basics. But beyond just the core gameplay loop, we're going to dive a bit deeper into other features and mechanics of the game, and we're going to start with everyone's favorite: weapons. There are 7 different weapon categories in the game: pistol, rifle, shotgun, submachine gun, assault rifles, melee weapons, and chainsaws. And there's a whole range of different weapons inside each category, and there's different grades or qualities of each one. The different grades from worst to best are damaged, common, superior, rare, elite, and unique being the best one. Each one is easily identifiable in game by the background color of the weapon icon. You can have 2 weapons equipped at any one time, and that can be either firearms or melee weapons. Of course, each firearm has its unique ammo type that it needs to operate, including chainsaws, which need fuel. All of the gear in this game, including weapons, have a wide array of stats that increase or decrease depending on the level of the item. Stats like body damage per hit, headshot damage, attacks per second, stun duration, knockback distance, noise radius, accuracy, aim time, range, reload time, and those are just the core item stats. Weapons, clothing, and car parts get additional stats as well, and the number and quality of these different stats will range greatly, again, depending on the grade and level of the item, and of course some RNG. And these extra stats can be things like extra weapon damage, attack speed, extra walk speed. There's even stats that increase your chances of finding better loot, with each quality grade having its own unique stat chance. There's an absolutely tremendous amount of variety and range of stats out there on these items, making each weapon unique in its own right, giving a ton of opportunities for different character builds. My personal favorite combo is having a rifle as a main weapon and an SMG or assault rifle as a backup. That way I can be precise and efficient with the single shot nature of a rifle, and if I have to pray and spray, I've got the automatic weapon as my backup. Now, the same exact system for weapons also applies to clothing as well in terms of stats and grade qualities. You get 6 clothing slots for your character. There's a head slot, body, legs, feet, hands, and a slot for backpack. However, the body slot and the backpack slot work a little differently than the others. The body slot, which is your torso or chest piece, has the option to wear a piece of armor like motocross gear or literal armor like Kevlar. Each armor piece follows the same system as everything else with grades and stats. However, they also have a percentage of damage absorption and durability. For example, a level 40 Kevlar vest might give you 20% damage absorption with 100 durability, meaning it'll last longer than, say, a flak jacket of the same level until you need to repair it, which can be done inside a safe zone. Along with the armor, the backpack slot also works a little differently than the other clothing. Instead of having a wide array of stats, backpacks only affect your movement speed and your inventory capacity. Backpacks with greater inventory capacity will typically have a greater negative impact to your movement speed, but the debuff isn't too severe, relatively speaking. They range from -1 to -10% movement speed. Backpacks are essential, of course, for looting, as clearing a building can fill up your available slots really quickly, and alongside the backpacks, your other gear can have stats that increase your inventory capacity as well, giving you even more inventory slots. In fact, let's dive a little deeper into the inventory system. You can find your inventory by hitting tab, which brings up your whole character menu. Here is where you do most of the actions in the game. On the left, you have your character's information, like their name, cash, health, armor, as well as their primary needs like food and water. Below that, you have your skills and effects. Any skills you unlock when leveling up will be shown here. You can hover over them individually to be reminded of what they do, and in-game events will be here as well, like double XP weekend or whatever the current event may be. You can also click on add skills and full stats at the bottom. Add skills will only be available if you've leveled up and have points to spend, and full stats will have a ton of information. Anything you need to know about your character can be found inside this tab, like all of the extra stats you get from weapons and clothing. All of those combined, to get your totals of those, you'll find that in the full stats section. In the center, you have all of your currently equipped clothing and weapons, and on the right, you have your inventory space and whatever else your character may be carrying. At the top, you have access to things like your mission log, friends list. You can also send and receive messages here, as well as start new private trades or view pending trades if you have any of those. And the trading in this game is great. It's a completely player-driven economy. There's a marketplace where you can buy and sell anything that exists in the game, or you could do private trades with friends if you want to, like I mentioned a moment ago, though it's not without some flaws. There's some quality of life issues that need to be worked out. For example, when you go to sell items on the marketplace, there's no way to see what the item is selling for. So to view the current price, you have to back out of the selling menu, go into the buying menu and search for the item. Then once you have the price, you back out of the buying menu, go back into the selling menu, and then you can list the item. And when you begin to list an item, the game will give you a price automatically that you can list the item for, but in my experience, the price isn't quite what I would actually sell it for, so I tend not to use that default price. While this still doesn't take too long to do, it can become tedious when you come back from exploring and you have an inventory full of stuff to sell. While you're accessing the marketplace via the trader, there's another option as well. You can also scrap items here. Scrapping a certain quality item will instantly give you a fixed amount of cash instead of a specific asking price and waiting for someone to buy it. Beyond trading, the game has a level and perk system. You gain experience by killing zombies and completing different missions and activities, and when you earn enough experience, you will level up and unlock a skill point. We can hit tab again, look to the bottom left and select add skills, and each skill has 5 ranks to invest in. Each rank of a skill is only unlocked every 5 levels, so to have a rank 5 skill, you'll need to be at least level 20. I suggest going for fast learner or mule in the early stages. Those give you increased experience gains and extra inventory space respectively, which are both really good skills to have in this game. But there's also a lot of different skills for different weapon types like pistols or rifles, as well as general combat skills like reload speed and accuracy. The skills alongside item stats give you a lot of options in the way you want to build your character. And depending on your character build, combat can play out in a variety of different ways, but each one should be effective enough if set up properly. The main enemies we'll be facing are infected and mutants. The game splits up the infected into what it calls generations and variants. The first generation contains the most basic and lowest level infected. There's the adult male and adult female with 3 different versions of each. There's fat male and fat female, worm, child male, and child female. The second generation contains bloody, irradiated, diseased, and burnt variants of the first generation minus the worms. So that means there's like bloody adult male, irradiated child male, burnt child female, and these second generation infected deal considerably more damage than the first generation, and all of them have their own damage types unique to their respective variant. All of the second generation also have a strong variant, which is a higher level and deals more damage and rewards more XP. The third generation is where the enemy types really start to ramp up. There's the scythe, spined, and cystic infected, and according to the wiki, all of which may have a second generation variant. For example, the scythed adult male may also have a scythed bloody adult male variant, you know, just for that extra insanity. The fourth generation contains the optic and tentacled infected, and follows the same rules as the third generation as far as variants go. And those are the infected in the game. There's close to 100 different types of infected if you include the different variants of each. And that's not including the different versions of each, like the burnt variant with or without fire. These infected can be encountered anywhere, it just depends on the level of the area that you're in. Then we move on to the mutated. These are considered bosses in the game. Bosses are found mainly in specific areas, like behind doors marked with the 3 red question marks that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, but they can also spawn randomly in the streets, and of course there are also the events on the map that have a boss inside for you to find and kill to be rewarded extra experience and pretty good loot loot. These typically have an active time to complete the event. The different mutated are the Stalker, Mother, Fingerhead, Choir, Tendril, Titan, Spitter, Twin, Creep, Hysteric, Reaper, and the 4 different cultists. Half of those have an irradiated variant. I haven't been fortunate enough to face all of these bosses yet. The ones I have personally fought against are the Stalker, Mother, Spitter, and Hysteric. The Stalker has this really unique feature where he is completely immune to all damage. All you can do when you are met with him is to run away to an outpost, but when I faced him, I didn't know this. He chased me for over 12 city blocks. I went into the Dalbo police station, waited a few minutes, and when I went back outside, he was gone. The Hysteric turns invisible and is a real treat to fight against as well. I haven't seen the Titan in game yet, but based on the pictures on the wiki, something about him reminds me of the walrus from the movie Tusk. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, I am so sorry to remind you that that exists in the world. Any damage you receive while fighting mutants and infected can be healed with a ton of different items. There's different healing items for different types of damage, be it radiation, burns, or whatever other damage you have. There's even anti-anxiety medications for when your character panics. I like to carry a single stack of each type wherever I go, which is usually 3 of each. That way I'm always prepared for whatever I might encounter. I'll link the bestiary in the description if anybody wants a deeper look at their stats or anything like that. The stats differ so much between all of these different variants and generations and mutated and infected. It would take a separate video to go over everything, so I'll put that link in the description. To encounter the infected or mutated, you need to travel around the map and you'll naturally encounter them as you explore. The game is currently an open world experience. You can travel across the entire thing as you wish. However, it wasn't always this way. The game used to be a collection of open-ended areas that you could travel between through the travel menu, much like the Last Stand Aftermath from my last video, but now it's completely open world. The game takes place in a big fictional city called Palehaven. There are different districts inside the city that are kind of like zones. They're all featured on the same city map, but each district will be suited for different levels and feature different level of infected inside. The districts start off easy on the west side of the map where you spawn, and they get increasingly more difficult as you travel east. The map has a ton of different buildings to enter, with each building potentially having many different floors and rooms to explore and loot. When you consider the size of the map itself, plus the massive interiors of the buildings, the game feels like a really big world when you're playing it. Some buildings might have 7 or more floors on it, with 5 to 10, 15 rooms on each floor, and each of the 18 districts might have a ton of buildings like this. The exact number will change because the map actually gets reset each week. The districts stay in the same spot, but the layout of them is procedurally regenerated every 7 days, so the layout is always different. You're going to do all of your traveling on foot. However, you do have a vehicle that you can fast travel with, but you can only fast travel to 3 general locations on the map, each of the locations being one of the 3 available outposts: the Western Dalbo outpost, the Southern Haverbrook outpost, and the Northeastern Greywood outpost. Your vehicle needs fuel to travel between these locations, and fuel can be obtained by looting it or by buying it from the marketplace. Your vehicle also has a trunk storage that you can store items in. You can loot or purchase different upgraded parts for your vehicle to increase the efficiency of it, like extra gas, storage space, things like that. It's a nice way to get across the big map pretty quickly. And as you go back and forth between these different outposts and buildings around the map doing the various missions for people, there's also events that will take place periodically that you can participate in. There's the boss event that I mentioned already a moment ago, but there's also the Outpost Attack. It's an event that pops up 6 times a day, giving each outpost 2 events throughout the day, with one event happening once every 4 hours. But the order they happen in is random, so you won't know which outpost it is until it's time. During the Outpost Attack, the general area surrounding the lucky or unlucky outpost will be marked orange on the map and have an unlimited number of infected spawn and attempt to break down the door of the outpost. You will get a big red health bar for the door at the top of the screen, and you will hear alarm sirens going off during the whole thing. In fact, even if you aren't that close to the outpost, you'll still hear the alarm sirens warning you that the outpost needs your help. If you and the other players successfully defend the outpost, then you will get a 2-hour buff and a ton of experience from all the infected that you've killed. There's 2 different buffs you can get: Outpost Defender and Outpost Guardian, and the one you get depends on how many infected you've killed during the event. It's also worth noting, if you aren't inside the event area when it ends, you won't get the buff. Zombie survival games have always been my absolute favorite genre of gaming, and even more so if you've got a group of friends to play with, but even if you're gonna go about it solo, it's still worth checking out, and that's just my personal opinion. And that's Dead Frontier 2. You decide if it's worth playing in 2024, and consider subscribing if you liked the video. I worked really hard on it, and until next time, farewell.